All right, the new costume party Noelle is out on Global, and today you already know we are going to be talking about how you guys should be building this character. So what skills you want to upgrade first, what skill cards you want to run on her, what gear you want to put on her, whether or not you actually want to enhance her, what talents you want to run on the talent tree, and then of course, what teams is she going to fit well on for both PvP and PvE. So let's start by talking about her passive that you get for reaching LR status. This passive is actually pretty decent because at the start of battle it inflicts a 40% reduced damage dealt on an attacker mage for one turn. That is pretty solid. So that means at least one of the attackers is not going to be able to do a lot of damage to you, which is really nice. And then for her skill 1, it is called Water Prank, inflicts an extend debuff duration by 1 turn debuff on an enemy. Guaranteed debuff duration extension. That is insanely good. And then it also inflicts a SP -1 debuff on an enemy. Guaranteed. That is really good, meaning you're slowing down how fast they can use their ultimates. If she is going first, right, before the enemy team, let's say you're in PvP, and you were to just use skill 1 right here, you are guaranteeing that at least one of the enemies cannot use their special skill, which is pretty dang good. And then for skill 2, it is another single target attack. All of these are single target attacks. It is called a Little Devil's Prank, and it inflicts a reduced magic attack level 3 debuff on an enemy for 2 turns, which means they're going to reduce their magic attack by 52%. That's insane, okay? And then inflicts taunt on an enemy for 2 turns, and then inflicts a SP -1 debuff on all enemies, which is insane. Like, it's just so good, okay? And I do want to point out that this right here, the magic attack reduction, which is 52%, if she goes before the enemy team, you can stack this magic attack reduction along with the reduced damage dealt right here to make it so an enemy can just do like absolutely nothing to you, which is insanely good, okay? Not to mention the fact that she taunts and the fact that she removes SP. Just all around like very good, okay? And then for her special skill, it is called Trick Water, inflicts a SP -3 debuff on an enemy, guaranteed, removes all buffs from an enemy, or from enemies, all enemies, guaranteed, which is insane. And then inflicts a disarm level 3 debuff on an enemy for 2 turns. And now when I say inflicts a SP -3 debuff guaranteed, I should note that like debuff immunity will stop that, but it will not stop the removes all buffs from enemies, so keep that in mind. That's really good. And it also, I don't think, stops the disarm, so the disarm is going to also go through no matter what for 2 turns, which is insanely good. And once again, you can stack this disarm, which reduces damage dealt by 34% from the enemy, along with her passive if she is going turn 1 before the enemy, which is insanely good, okay? And then for her combo skill, attacks after removing an enemy's barrier. So just barrier removal on top of all of that, that is all very good. Now, if you look at the upgrade effects for each skill, the combo skill, the special skill, the secondary skill, the primary skill, right? All of them just scale your attack and magic attack. They don't really change the effects of this Noelle. And since this Noelle is a debuffer, you are not going to have to worry about like raising your attack and magic attack, and everything single target. Like I would say if something here was AoE, you would upgrade that first. But since all of these are single target, and since none of these actually help upgrade the effect, I would say it does not matter which one of these you upgrade first. Now, technically, I would just upgrade the special first because it has the highest percentage of damage, right? So if you were going to choose something to upgrade, I would technically recommend the special skill, then go secondary skill, then go primary skill. But it doesn't really matter, okay? So in terms of upgrade priority, I personally wouldn't even recommend using resources to upgrade her moves, especially if you pulled like the new Charmy. The Charmy is an attacker. You are going to want to upgrade her moves, so use your resources on her as opposed to Noelle. Noelle is already doing everything she needs to do, just with the fact that she is a debuffer, okay? So let's talk about her skill cards. First off, the skill card I have equipped, I would not actually equip. I don't know, I think I just threw something on here to have something on her when I initially got her. I would actually equip this one over that one. So this skill card right here is pretty good. It grants a 40% increased defense buff and 6% increased HP recovery buff. It does a little bit more than that when you fully dupe it out, right? But giving her more defense and HP is just going to help her survive longer. And since she is your debuffer and she's removing special skills from enemies essentially, and she's also helping keep your team alive because she's reducing enemy damage, you want to keep her alive as long as possible. So anything with defense in terms of skill cards is going to be pretty good. Some other options that you could run on her would obviously be her skill card. Her skill card is by far in every way the best skill card you can run on her. And so what the passive does is upon taking damage, there is a 20 to 100% chance to inflict a SP -1 debuff on all enemies. So if you fully dupe out this skill card, it will be removing an SP -1 on all enemies guaranteed. Okay, so this is actually a skill card that is definitely worth duping out because you can run this on any debuffer, and that is insanely good. By far, in every single way in the game, this is the best debuffer card. Okay, so if you are able to dupe it out or get a copy of it at least, make sure you do that. I myself haven't even gotten a copy yet. I am waiting for Black Asta. I will summon on him, and then if I get him, I'll come back to the banner and try to get the skill card, or you can buy the battle pass and get the guaranteed skill card for her, which I might actually recommend this season. And then if we go down here, the additional effect you get on skill 2 is it will inflict block HP recovery on an enemy for 2 turns in addition to everything else, which is just, you know, the cherry on top. So a very good skill card. This is ideally what you want to run on her if you're able to get it, okay? Other options would be, like I said, Moonlight Necklace. At full max dupe, it's going to do 80% increased defense and 10% increased healing, as opposed to my 40% and 6% that you saw. So getting this is very good if you're able to get it duped out. It is a general pool 1. You'll probably get it over time. And then another option would be the Cunning Commander. I really like this particular debuff card for Lotus, and I think it would work well on Noelle as well, because it has a 25% chance to apply a 2 to 10%, depending on how far you have it upgraded, speed reduction to an enemy for 1 turn upon attacking, anytime you attack, okay? So the fact that you want their team to be slower and your team to be faster is just always going to be good in like PvP. You could also run pretty much any other debuffer card you wanted and it would work decently okay, but these are kind of the ones I would recommend for Noelle over all the others. So hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit on the skill cards. Now let's talk about the gear you want to run on her. So if we go into the gear here, I will say stats don't really matter. You can build her for attack, you can build her for magic attack, you can build her for HP, whatever. Ideally, I would recommend going for HP or defense, as much of it as you can, because it's just going to keep her alive longer. But the more important thing to build towards is sets. Okay, what you want for Noelle is a gold speed set, absolutely 100% a gold speed set, and then you also want a gold defense set. So what do I mean when I say sets? Well, this is the secret of the Deep Sea set, and you can see I have Deep Sea Pearl equipped, I have Deep Sea Scale Fragment, Essence of the Deep Sea, and Conch of the Deep Sea all equipped. When you have 4 pieces of the same gear set equipped, you will get that bonus. So I'm getting a speed +5. If I only had 2 pieces equipped, I would get the 5% increased speed buff for 2 turns at the start of a wave, which is not nearly as good. Okay, so you want a full gold speed set equipped, and then you want a half gold defense set equipped right here. Okay, what do I mean when I'm talking about gold sets? I try to explain this every video. So if you go into sets here, you'll see we have an attack set, defense set, HP set, mobility set, so on and so forth. Well, this is the normal mobility set. If you look over here, we have the same symbol with a gold star. That is a gold mobility set. Gold mobility sets, or gold sets in general, are always going to be better than regular sets because they provide better stats. Okay, so you want to go for gold sets if you can. So that is the gear I would run on Noelle. Then in terms of enhancement, should you guys be enhancing her or not? Well, at level 2, you get, at the start of a wave, inflicts a 30% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. That is insanely good, okay? So definitely worth getting her to 2 dupes. And then if you get her to 5 dupes, you get a little more endurance, and then you also get that same effect of the increased damage taken on enemies, but then you also get, upon taking damage, she inflicts continuous HP recovery removal on all enemies. Okay, so in other words, she's going to, from my understanding, stop effects of like Charmy, you know, season 2 Charmy, who does the continuous healing. She'll stop that whenever she gets attacked, which is freaking good, right? So in terms of enhancement, I would say definitely try to get her to at least 2 stars. If you're a dolphin or maybe a whale, then of course go for the 5-star passive. And I would say, as far as using versatile mage pieces on this character, this is one of those characters that is definitely worth it. So if you have versatile mage pieces and you want to use them, I would recommend using them on this Noelle. Now, in terms of talents, the attack talents don't really matter all that much because, once again, she's a debuffer. She's not going to be doing the most damage, but you could go for magic attack and crit rate just to give her a little more damage. You could also go for like damage dealt and crit damage if you wanted. Those are kind of the two I would go for, these two or these two here. I would not go for the attack plus 7% necessarily, and I wouldn't necessarily go for the attacks after granting a 10% increased damage dealt to the boss, unless you're going against a boss, right? So if you're in PvE, you could of course run that, but just in general, I would go for the magic attack and for the crit rate. And then in terms of defense, I would go personally for the defense plus 20% and go for the endurance, which is going to stack defense and crit resist. You could also on this character potentially run, I would still run the defense plus 20%, but then you could run it with Iron Will, which grants debuff immunity for 1 turn if her HP is equal to or lower than 35%. I just personally don't like the stipulation of having to be below 35% health to run this, but of course she has taunt, so she might take damage, right? So it might actually be worth running that debuff immunity. And why do you want to run debuff immunity on your debuffer? Well, you don't want her to get debuffs on her that are going to make her die faster or make her have less turns because she gets speed down or something like that, right? So you want her to be immune to debuffs, that way she can continue to be your debuffer and do what she needs to do. Okay, so that is something you could run on her. And then in terms of support, you could run this right here. Resolution grants debuff immunity for 1 turn upon resisting damage successfully. So I do like running that here. And you could also run the increased HP recovery received if you have a healer on the team. If you don't have a healer on the team, you might actually want to switch that out to running for accuracy and penetration. Accuracy and penetration isn't the best, but there's just no point in running this if you don't have a healer on the team. And then the other option I would run, I would go for the increased damage resist right here that I normally recommend, or I would go for the grants SP plus 1 buff upon having less than 2 SPs at the start of a turn. So I would go for basically these two right here, or a combination of these two. And I would go for a combination of these two as my alternate option, okay, for swiftness and for increased damage resist. But for now, I think this is probably the best way to go. And most importantly, I would recommend, if you are thinking about maxing talent trees, you might have noticed I had all mine maxed out. It's not necessary for Noelle on any of the other talent trees besides this one right here. For the support tree, I would recommend it because you can equip this speed plus 2 right here, ensuring that your debuffer is going first. And Noelle is actually pretty fast compared to most characters in the game. If you look at her speed, I have it at 114 right now because of that talent stone, but normally she has a base speed of 112. Plus you have the speed set on her, right? So that's just going to make her go pretty quick. So ideally, you put a speed set on her and you go for that support talent stone and she'll be pretty quick. Let's go ahead and talk about the teams that she can fit on, both PvE and PvP here. I have a couple of teams set up. So starting with PvP, this is a very good team that I will probably end up running for a showcase with her. And so the idea is you have the buffing of William here, you have big damage from Julius, and you have the debuffing from Noelle to get rid of their SP, to lower their attack, and if you have dupes into her, to lower their damage reduction, so Julius can just do even more damage. And then you have the increased all attack with Charlotte, and you also have the extra defense from Charlotte. Like, this is just a very, very good team overall that you could potentially run. It is a mono blue team. Another option you could run would be something kind of funny like this. I don't know how well it would work, right? But I think it would be fun to run. So if you look at Noelle's skills, remember her special skill right here can do the disarm, and that reduces the amount of damage enemies deal. And then she also has the passive that does the 40% reduced damage dealt from the enemies as well. And if you were to run her with Noelle here, who, you know, to be fair, gets a lot of flack. He's not a very good character. But if you look at his special skill right here, this is an AoE. It inflicts disarm on all enemies as well by 34%. Okay, so you could just reduce the crap out of their attack with these two and basically take no damage, and then buff the crap out of Julius with William here and do massive amounts of damage yourself. So I think this could just be a fun team to run for PvP. I don't know how well it will actually work. Feel free to try it out, but I would still recommend this team over the Noelle team, but you could try this out. And then another option, this one is going to be more for PvE, but you could try it in PvP. I would recommend this for PvE though, because you have the debuffing of Noelle, you have the buffing of Kahono, and the buffing of William. She gives attack up, and then he also gives attack up, and then you apply that to Kyato here, who has AoE damage, AoE nuking. He's actually pretty dang good, right? and then along with the debuffs, so this team could work out pretty well in PvE. As far as PvP goes, I'm not 100%. I would have to actually try it out. I'll be honest, I have not tried out this team in PvP. I think it could work out, but this is more of a PvE team right here. So that is it for the build guide, guys. If you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.